Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to the Cope Life podcast. I'm Dr. Charleston Gaines. I'm so excited to be here to talk to you guys again on the Cope Life podcast, where our goal is to build a community and then an entire world where everyone is choosing to live life with kindness, optimism, positivity, and empathy. And so here I am going live again. I love to do this for you guys so that you can actually see me do this live. A lot of podcasts that you may listen to don't go live because they want to do a lot of editing and so on. But I just give it to you real. This is who I am. What you see is what you get. I'm excited to be here. And today we're going to talk about living your life well. And this is just another episode of this podcast. I love doing it, but if you're really enjoying what you've heard so far, what you've seen from my podcast, I'm going to put a link below where you can go to my YouTube channel and watch previous podcasts and really just get an understanding of the value that I'm bringing to you every Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because I really want to provide you real value. And so today we're going to jump right in. We're talking about living your life well. And so what is meant by living your life well? The truth is that it's up to you to decide, what does it mean to be living life well? And when I'm talking about living life well, I'm not talking about what you have, what you've accomplished. I'm not talking about your quality of life from day to day. For example, the quality of home, what kind of car you drive, how much money you make, what food you have to eat. That's not what I'm talking about. When I say live your life well, I'm talking about, are you living a life that you would consider to be a good life based on your actions, your values, your thoughts, your behaviors? Essentially, given your circumstances, the scenarios that you deal with on a daily basis, are you doing a good job? Are you living up to your standards? Are you doing things well? Are you doing the right things? A lot of us have excuses, especially in our hard times, especially when life gets a little tough. We make excuses. We essentially decide that it's okay to not live up to our values. We decide it's okay to not be the best version of ourselves. And I tell you what, if you're like that, that's fine. That makes you normal. It's okay. No one is going to do 100% of everything, 100% the best that they can, 100% of the time. So if you continually do things that confirm that you're a human being, that you're imperfect, that you make mistakes, that's okay. We're not going to judge ourselves, because when we talk about kindness, optimism, positivity, and empathy, we can also provide those things to ourselves. We can be kind to ourselves. We can be empathetic to ourselves and have compassion and understanding towards ourselves. But you get to a certain point where you have to maybe give yourself a little more accountability than grace. We give ourselves a grace. We give ourselves a little buffer to be imperfect. We give ourselves a buffer to make mistakes because we're human. We shouldn't expect or demand perfection from ourselves. But at the same time, we have values. And so when you look at what your values are, you have to decide, are you actually going to live by those values? Don't say that integrity is a value of yours if you're continually lying to get what you want. I believe everybody lies sometimes. I don't think that there's anyone who always tells the truth all the time. We even lie to ourselves. It happens, and it's okay. But if you are living your life well, meaning you're living up to your standards, living up to your values, then what you do is you hold yourself accountable for those moments. You look at the way that you interact with other people. If empathy is a value of yours, are you being empathetic to the right people at the right time? And I mean that in that way because not everybody deserves your empathy. You can't be compassionate for every cause and for every person, and you can't be there to help bear the burden of everyone who's struggling around you. However, if loyalty is a value of yours, then you will be loyal to those who have been loyal to you, and you will be there for those who need you, who have been there when you needed them. And so when I say, are you living your life well? What I want you to think about first is, what are your values? What are your values? What are your standards? Do your values include kindness? Do they include confidence? Do they include loyalty, integrity? Do they include just being organized? Do they include love, loving yourself, loving others? What are your values? And for a lot of us, you really have to dig deep, right? Because I can list off a lot of different values. And when you hear these values, you think to yourself, oh, yeah, that's my value. I value that. I value this. I value loyalty. I value honesty. I value commitment. I value work ethic. And you can say you value all of these things. I value mental health. I value physical health. I value peace on earth. You can say you have all of these values, but they do not all have the same meaning to you. They do not all have the same worth to you. Some values are more important to you than others, and values change over time. Values evolve. So when you think about what your values are, it's not enough to just name certain things that sound good. And I believe there's so much of that now, partially because of social media, partially because of all of the time that we spend with our minds inundated with the opinions of so many other people. So, what happens is we see work ethic, we see teamwork, we see connecting with people, we see all of these things. But when you dig deep into who you are and elevate your self awareness, you can see that you don't value all of those things the way other people do, or the way social media pretends that you should or that you're supposed to be a good person. And I'll give you an example. Independence is something that a lot of people value. They value it, they speak on it. I built this from the ground up by myself. I did this without any help. I don't want anyone else's help. I like to be in control. I like to make all the decisions. And you have that person who values independence. And a lot of people who value that truly have that value. They have other aspects of their personality, like work ethic and creativity, innovation, that aligns with that independence and allows them to do things like be successful entrepreneurs. Then there are other people who look at that and they say, I should embody those values. I should be like that. And then they try to be something that they're not. If your work ethic isn't the same as someone else's, the smart thing to do is to dig deep into who you are, elevate your self awareness, and then really get a handle on your values and quit worrying about other people. They have nothing to do with you. You don't know their story, you don't know where they came from. A lot of people who are hyper independent are that way because of the ways that they've been betrayed, the way that they've been let down and stabbed in the back. You can't look at other people and want to have their results and their success, but skip the part of their story that was hard. You can't get to their level by coming in sideways from your own journey. You're not going to skip the line, you're not going to cheat the process. So elevate your self awareness and see where you are in your process, in your journey. And then what are your values based on where you are right now? And then when you figure that out, when you elevate your self awareness, then what you can do is you can look and see, are those values aligned with my thoughts, my intentions, my behaviors, even my relationships? If you value peace, do you spend a lot of time around people who are violent? If you value learning, elevating your knowledge, do you spend time around a lot of people who think reading is dumb and boring? It's real simple. You look at your values, and then you look at how you're living your life, and then you make a decision. You make a judgment. Am I living my values? And if you are living your values, then be proud of that and be confident that every day you are doing what you have decided you should be doing according to your standards, according to your morals, according to how you have defined who you are, who you should be, who you want to be. See, you have those options. It's your choice. So you start with your values. You look at what decisions are you making? What behaviors are you bringing to your everyday life? And then when you look at that, you can begin to hold yourself accountable and decide, am I living well? When I say, am I living well, I'm not talking about, do I have a nice house? Do I have a good family? Do I have food to eat? I'm talking about your actions. You can rephrase this to say, am I being a good person? Am I contributing positively to society? Am I living the life that I believe I was meant to live? And so when you look at the life that maybe you are meant to live, you have to see how that aligns with your values. Because if it doesn't align, then there's a problem. Obviously, you can't live a particular life that goes against your values. And that happens a lot across people's relationships, their jobs, their careers, if they're business owners, if they're professional athletes. I knew an individual once who had a full ride scholarship to play sports in college. Everything was paid for because he was very athletic. He was very good at what he did. I'm not going to say his name. I don't even want to get into what sport it is, but this individual got full paid scholarship to play sports in college. And after a couple of years, he dropped out. And the reason why was because although he was very good at that sport, it did not align with his values. He's a deep thinker. He's philosophical. He's creative. He's artistic. And he wanted to spend more time on who he really is. So when he was crushing it, playing that sport, getting national recognition in college, he wasn't living well because he was not living according to his values. You decide if you're living well by holding yourself accountable to living your values. What is important to you? Are you behaving in that way? And then what you have to do, and this is really the difficult part for a lot of people. You have to recognize, are you living your values regardless of your circumstances? And here's a simple example for you. There are lots of people who absolutely love their children. Parents love their kids with all their hearts. But then sometimes their circumstances involve things like a bitter divorce. And then they do things that may end up being harmful to their children. Those people in those instances are not living well because they're not living their values. And when you don't live your values, you usually end up with regret. You usually end up talking to people and saying things like, that's not me. That's not how I am. I'm really not like that. You end up having regret. You end up having guilt and shame and apologizing. And sometimes you find yourself trying to repair relationships that were built on who you truly are. But when you stepped outside of that, when you stepped outside of your values, when you stepped outside of your standards, you are no longer living well. And then you get to a place where you're trying to make up for that. If you live your standards and you decide every day to be the person that you should be, then you're living well. And when I say the person that you should be, I'm not talking about your results. I'm talking about your values, your actions, your thoughts, your behaviors, your intention. I'm talking about doing what you know is right. And when I say doing what is right, I'm not talking about societal rules. I'm not talking about the law. I'm not talking about compliance or guidelines. I'm talking about what you know in your heart is right for you right now. And when you can live that life, then you can choose to be proud of who you are. You can choose to be proud of the life you're living, and you can say, honestly, I am living well. And you can do that without regret, without remorse, without guilt or shame or humiliation, because you're living your life daily according to your values. You've decided what it means to be a good person, and you've decided to live that way. And so, if you are living your life well, be proud of yourself, be proud of your effort, respect your journey. It took a lot for you to get here. And the truth is, your best life is ahead of you. The best day of your life hasn't happened yet. As long as you continue to live your values and build this life according to what's important to you, then you can be proud of living well. And that's what we're talking about when I say, are you living your life well? Are you living your life according to your values and your standards so that you can be proud of your behavior, your actions, your decisions? If you're living your life well, then be proud of that. Don't compare yourself to others. Don't judge yourself for the mistakes you've made or the failures that you've had in your life. Choose to look at your life as it aligns with your values, your day to day, your effort. Hold yourself accountable when you're not there. Move forward, be proud, and live your life well. Thank you for being here. I'm Dr. Charleston Gaines. This is a Cope Life podcast, and I hope that today and every day, in every situation, you are able to bring kindness, optimism, positivity, and empathy. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you.